0, ignition, liftoff.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to AWS Made Easy, episode number 104. I'm Stephen Barr.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rahul Subramaniam. And it's been a great weekend. How's your weekend been, Stephen?
Really good. We had Memorial Day. It means family time, remembering those who've gone before, and then also just being together. It was really, really nice and a great weekend to boot. How about you?
Good. And a good barbecue, too?
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, the weekend here was a regular weekend, but a lot of cleaning up. I was clearing out a lot of space from tons of manuals and instructions and warranties and stuff like that I'd collected. I realized for about 14 or 15 years. So just got rid of all of that, made space for new projects, lots of 3D printing and storage solutions in the work. So yeah, it was very productive and very good.
Awesome. What was your favorite print of the weekend?
I would have to say my new battery holders. So I have these honeycomb battery holders that hold both the AAA and the AA types, kind of one behind the other in a very sleek configuration, and they store about 24 batteries each. So it has all my storage for batteries covered.
Well, much better than having them loose in a drawer, just digging them out there. Yeah, I think that's great. It's really fun. I've got my organization wall with the Gridfinity set up. I need to print out more bins and more custom bins.
Yeah.
But just especially when you get into electronics like Arduino, you wind up with a lot of little components, and without an organization system, it just becomes a mess. And
Got it.
I've made way too many messes. So
before we
nice
dive right into that, then I want to actually do a very quick segue. Maybe I'll just share my screen over here. If you haven't done this already, this is again a 3D printing tip. So if you're not familiar with the OpenSCAD model for Gridfinity, you should probably check it out. I find this incredibly useful because literally on the fly, I decide what size I want. So this was my last 3x4 Gridfinity bin that I was printing. But one of the other ones that I did was we inherit. Actually, my favorite one probably was the fact that I had a huge coin collection of my own, and then we inherited a massive collection from a family friend that's literally been lying in boxes for a while. So I created these amazing bins. So I made them 3x4 on the in the grid setup, but inside I made them 3x3s.
Oh, that's handy.
And then you can decide whether you want a label, you want, what kind of lip you want on the thing. And so once you have this, you can literally just compile it with an FNF6. Sorry, here we go. And you can then save it and export it as an STL. So I've got an entire collection of these, and as and when I need a Gridfinity box for a very specific configuration, I literally just spend 1 minute on this and create whatever configuration I need.
That's pretty neat.
I'll send you the OpenSCAD files for this. Yeah. You can even search for them online, but it's pretty nifty.
We printed out a kitchen tool today. We needed a cookie cutter in a certain shape, and so we looked one up on printables. We found one. I did it in PETG, so it's relatively food safe.
Yeah.
And then 30 minutes later, we had it. It's kind of neat.
That's pretty awesome. Okay, so now news of the day. We are going to jump into AWS announcements.
Yes, we've got 5 announcements to cover, and then 5 announcements, and then we are going to try. AWS has listened to our feedback about Bedrock Studio, feedback not just of us, but many others. So we've got 5 AWS announcements, and we're going to try the newly streamlined experience for getting Bedrock Studio set up.
Great.
Remember a few episodes back where we tried and failed, and we were not the only ones. So we saw a LinkedIn post from Anchia Barth. She's released a script for how to get all the IAM roles and permissions set up. We're going to give that a try live. We have not tried this before, so we're going to give that a shot.
Awesome.
Okay, let's put things on screen.
There you go.
Knowledge bases for Amazon Bedrock now lets you configure inference parameters. So let's have a look at this. Greater control over personalizing the responses generated by a foundation model.
Basically, your temperature and top P, which are your two most important inference parameters, they are the ones that basically help you figure out how much creativity you want in the answers that the LLM provides to you. So those are now configurable and makes it really simple to do that.
Interesting. The top P setting limits how many word options the model considers. Right. So it's the top. It'll have a list. Okay, what's my next word? And it'll be the top.
Correct.
I pick randomly from the top 10, the top 20, the top 2.
Correct.
So, okay. I see. Restricting this number restricts the consideration to a smaller set of word choices.
Correct. Because like we've discussed before, LLMs are basically just trying to predict the next word. And then it has a bunch of choices to pick from as it's predicting the next one.
You could also look at stop sequences and max tokens. That's good for cost control. And stop sequences, for example, you can have, say, if you're outputting a JSON, well, then your stop sequence would be a right curly bracket. And you could say, okay, that's how you output a JSON. And you can also use a starting character of left curly bracket to get started, especially with Anthropic. Anthropic sometimes doesn't want to give you JSON or wants to talk a lot before it gives you JSON. So you can say, nope, start with the left curly bracket and then end with the right curly bracket.
And by the way, stop sequences also become very important when you're doing agentic operations, because the agents need a stop sequence to understand when one agent is done and the next one can take over and start reviewing or performing tasks based on the output of the first. So really important to make sure that you have some of those as you're developing agentic applications.
Yes, and speaking of agentic applications, we are going to give a quick preview of AI Friday. We're going to be building a second brain for George Costanza. We had our George Costanza episode last week where we helped him plan how to become an architect. Well, this time he's going to have to keep all that knowledge close to his brain. So in order to do that, he's going to have an AI-powered second brain. So stay tuned for that on our AI Friday coming up this Friday, where we will be using agents.
Awesome.
Okay.
Right. So I'm going to give this one a simplifies, and this is a 4. Very clearly defined parameters, very easy to fix.
Yeah, I like it. It's very, and I like how it doesn't just throw in a bunch of terminology, but it does take a sentence or two to define it. So sometimes they're so terse. And to this, I like how it gives an example. I think you should consider a half cloud.
Okay, granted. I'll give it a 4.5 cloud.
All right, cool. All right, well, let's move on to the next one. Introducing EC2 C7i Flex instances.
Great. Should we bring that up on screen?
Oh, yes. Share this tab.
Awesome.
This is introducing C7i Flex instances.
So these are the latest generation of the Intel Xeon processors, right?
Yes, Xeon Scalable. The newest instances are 4th generation Intel Xeon Scalable. So sometimes the numbering is funny. The 7 is the generation in that family,
AWS
in the C family.
Correct.
And then so the 7th generation of AWS with the 4th generation of Xeon Scalable.
Yeah. Importantly, from an efficiency standpoint, as always, or I think in 95% of the cases, if you upgrade to the latest instance family offering, you will invariably save money with higher efficiency and a higher performance on that particular instance. So again, the C7i has 5% lower prices compared to the C7. Sorry, the C7i Flex is 5% lower than the C7i. So you should check it out, see if that is applicable to your use case, and use it.
I was looking at Darko's Discord, and a really neat discussion came up on what's the difference between a C7i and a C7i Flex. And that's a really good question. And how does that differ from the T series with Burstable? So the C7i or any Flex instance is you get the full instance 95% of the time.
Yeah.
So you have the chance that you could get throttled. but it's not, you're not accruing burstable credits for later like you are with the T series.
Correct.
So if your workload supports that, then you can have a much lower cost. So Raul, just quickly, what are the use cases where that is a worthwhile trade-off?
Yeah, if your application is just running, some of the time, or you have a cluster that's running EKS or ECS or one of those services, then having these kind of instances definitely makes sense. They're cheaper. They're going to be available 95% of the time. You can make use of them. And if one of those instances just throttles you for a little bit, it's totally fine because the rest of the cluster will work just okay.
And I like how there's things that are responding to load, right? Like if you were running a numerical simulation, you wouldn't want a flex instance. It would just be slower for no reason.
Correct.
But for something that's responding to a demand, where that demand can be smoothed, like you said, over multiple nodes, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So all of these, the Kafka, the Elasticsearches, databases, all of them just make sense.
Nate, how do you rate this one?
I would give this, I'm going to give this a neutral, because now adding a new instance type, unless it's, purpose built for something, I generally think that it's gotten to a point where there's too much complexity. So I'm going to give it a neutral because I still like the idea of having new instance types, but I don't like the complexity of dealing with now 900 plus instance types or instance types.
It's well over 700. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, I don't know how many there are. I lost count after, I think, somewhere around 600. But I think this definitely deserves a 4 cloud because it's very well explained. It's really easy for someone to get started, but I wish they would include that difference between flex and non-flex in this to explain that further.
And flex versus T series. So there's not any accrual of points.
Correct.
Okay, let's jump into the next one. AWS launches console-based bulk policy migration for billing and cost management console access. Quite the verbose title. So what are the implications of this one?
Okay. So basically, when you have to migrate all your policies across accounts and get, especially when you're managing an entire org, they've just made it way simpler to do this now across the board. I haven't tried out this experience myself to see how seamless it is, but from everything that I've read about it, all the required fine-grained actions or the post migration set of IAM policies and roles that are required, all of that stuff gets taken care of with one click. And I think I really like the idea of that. We haven't tried it out yet. So once we do, we'll give you more hands-on feedback on this. But for right now, I think it definitely simplifies the lives of most organization maintainers on AWS.
And it's pretty neat that it's a all region rollout, except the China regions, like those are a bit different, but all other commercial regions rolls out at the exact same time because you really don't want to have two different billing paradigms running in parallel for any length of time. So it's pretty cool that they did that. Cool. Okay.
Yep.
So rating is definitely simplifies.
And I'm going to give it a 4.
Cool. Okay. Next article is Mistral Small Foundation Model now available on Amazon Bedrock. So Mistral, so right, we were focusing so much on Claude, and then we have GPT 4.0. Now Mistral still very much in the game. What do you think about Mistral Small? Who's Mistral Small's competition? Is this similar to Haiku? So what would we use Mistral Small for?
I think Haiku is still larger than, Mistral or Mixtral. I think Gemma and some of the other ones that are eventually intended to be running locally or running on edge devices or running on much smaller or low power devices, I think that's where these start becoming useful. The 7B models, actually the 7B model is probably going to compare with the Haikus, but This one in particular is, is a 32. It's actually 32K tokens, so it's not small in terms of context. I haven't tried this out yet, but you know, code generation, comment reviews. These are all use cases that seem, you know, like they would want to be run on edge devices. And with AWS IoT, I imagine that these will start becoming relevant soon. So Bedrock might be a great place to try them out right now, play around with it, make sure you understand the capabilities of it, and then eventually move it on an edge device.
Interesting. The way they describe it, I mean, for a quote small model, right? Code generation, all major coding languages, also top tier performance in multiple spoken languages, including English, French, German, Spanish, Italian, and dozens of other language, and guardrails built in. It's a lot for a quote small model.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely is quite a bit. So the base models for almost all LLMs, the foundation models that are created that you get on Hugging Face and stuff, are typically non-instruct models, right? They're just bare bone trained models. On top of that, then organizations like AWS or folks on Hugging Face will go ahead and create an instruct model on top of that, which makes sure that you have the ability to ask it questions. It knows how to answer them. They put in guardrails as part of the instruct training process. And then that is when it becomes useful. So when we are using Bedrock, we are actually using the second layer trained model, which is trained over the base foundation models.
And I like that this is paired with a much more detailed blog post.
Yeah,
And I like optimized for low latency workloads.
correct. So most of these small models are custom built for low latency, low um, processor utilization kind of scenarios.
This is neat. They give the example they give is spam classification. So reading an email, is it spam or not?
Yeah,
So that's something you definitely want. Low latency. You don't want your email client to be slowing down as you read every single email.
correct.
So this is neat. Okay, well, how do you rate this one in terms of a simplified? And let's consider that it comes with that much bigger blog post. Let's see, is it in all the
Yeah.
regions? All it's in US East. Okay,
Yeah,
just
I think
US
the
East.
rollout of these will happen region by region.
Yeah.
It's going to
So
be
next is US West 2.
correct. And yeah, I think these ones are slower. Uh, but yeah, I give this a 4.5 and definitely simplifies.
Yeah, definitely. I like these use cases. It's great that they give examples of real use cases.
Yep.
All right, we have one more article to review.
Well, let's take it.
AWS Chatbot now supports tagging of AWS Chatbot resources. The AWS Chatbot now enables customers to tag AWS Chatbot resources. Tags are simple key value pairs that customers assign to AWS resources, such
Yeah.
as chatbot channel configurations to organize, search, identify, and control access.
Yeah. We couldn't miss out on an opportunity to include a cost optimization uh, announcement over here. So, yeah, so a lot of folks these days are using the AWS chatbot mechanism. And so making sure that you have tagging enabled on those goes a long way in ensuring that you're allocating the costs to the right BUs, to the right, you know, uh, parts of the organization, to the right people. So really useful. Definitely simplifies the life of anyone who's trying to manage FinOps at your org. And I'd give this 4
Yeah,
for clouds.
no complaints about it. Even my personal AWS account, I still have a tag called project, which I use because I've got a couple of projects going on, and
Yeah,
it's so easy in the heat of the moment to just be like, "Oh, I'm sure I'm going to remember what this Lambda function does,"
yeah.
and a month later, what does this do? Why am I using it? Why does this SQSQ have 100,000 messages in
Correct.
it? So tag your things so that way you can know what it is you are doing. It is, and it's, I
Yep.
think there's I don't know if I've heard the phrase before, but it must exist. Tag debt. right? The longer you go without tagging,
Without tagging,
the
yes.
harder it's going to be to untag the mess.
Yeah. And you can actually measure it in dollar terms that you spent in untagged resources. That
Yeah.
would be easy to measure.
Hey, maybe that's a good finder. How many
Yeah.
resources are untagged?
Actually,
All
that's a
right,
good one. Yeah. We'll get that implemented.
cool. See, that's
Okay.
why we do this show. It is a great way of generating ideas.
Awesome.
Okay.
With these announcements, if you have any new ideas, if you have any new suggestions, or want us to review something hands-on with an announcement that you've encountered or not, you're not familiar with it, please let us know in the chat. We will do our best to cover it in the next episode.
Well, I wanted to post one thing I saw on LinkedIn before we jump into the Bedrock Studio demo that I thought
Great.
it was interesting to see. So, the Amazon is hiring on the artificial general intelligence team.
Yeah.
So, artificial general intelligence, right? This is the quote, the holy
Holy
grail, right?
Grail.
This is not a model that can tag spam or write funny poetry or
Correct.
generate convincing sound. This is something that actually is thinking and reasoning and can learn and reason about data and types of problems that it's never seen before. This is the holy grail of AI. And there's an artificial general intelligence team seeking a dedicated, skilled, and innovative applied scientist. So, if this is you, if you have a master's or a PhD in math, stats, computer science, engineering, or related, if this is you, that would be a pretty neat team to work on.
Yeah.
And just down the road over in Bellevue.
Love you.
And interestingly, on the Alexa and Echo devices team. So if your Alexa starts asking you very, very detailed conversations one day, you know why.
Yeah. And by the way, Amazon just recently made an announcement that they are going to be launching very soon a new version of um, capabilities or abilities on these Amazon devices, which are going to be LLM driven rather than the slots driven approach that Lex or the Alexa system had earlier. And
Because
so,
right now there's a finite number of intents, right?
correct,
And if you say
correct,
things and it doesn't match your intent, it doesn't know what to do.
exactly. And so this should be very interesting. I also hear that it's going to be based on a subscription that you'll have to pay for because the costs of supporting an LLM based agent or an assistant is pretty high.
Yeah, I can. Well, that's going to be one of those things in the future, right? It's just subscription management, right? There's so
Yeah,
many little things you can subscribe for: $20 to OpenAI, 20 to Anthropic,
correct.
20 to Perplexity. So you want to make
I
sure
think
you
I would
can.
love a finder that finds all the subscriptions across everything that I have and puts it all in one place that says this is how I want to manage it.
Well, just like tags, right? That's why you got to read your credit card statement at the end of the month and say, okay, that's what this is. That's what this is. That's how you can make sense.
Correct.
All
Okay,
right.
so we
Let's
dive
take
right in.
yes, let's take a quick break, and
Yeah,
then we come back. We are going to be looking at the new Bedrock Studio IAM helper script to get people started with Bedrock Studio. We'll be right back after this message.
Some tools just find AWS cost savings and make you do all the work. Visualizing cost opportunities is great, but that's not enough. CloudFix, on the other hand, actually delivers those savings for you. And you don't need to worry because CloudFix fixers are AWS recommended and easy to use. It's the only tool that fixes cost savings opportunities and doesn't just find them. It's the easiest way to save money on AWS. It's all 100% automatic and risk-free. And the best part is that it works non-stop. See for yourself. Click on the button to get a free demonstration of CloudFix and stop overspending on AWS today.
We're back. So I just saw this on LinkedIn the other day that we've heard your feedback to everyone who struggled setting up the required AWS IAM roles, and that was us,
yes,
and permissions to get started with Amazon Bedrock Studio. You can now use this Bedrock Studio bootstrapper script to automate the creation of the permissions boundary, service role, and permissions and provisioning role. So clicking the link to
Great.
this takes you to a GitHub repository. Let's have a look at that. And I don't feel so bad because this is a 1,269 lines. It's 1,100 of those lines of code of how to use the Bootstrapper. So it's gives you this Python script here. Let's see.
So if all of you remember, I think a couple of weeks ago, we spent nearly 30 to 45 minutes. I think, there were 30 to 45 minutes just trying to figure out how to get Bedrock Studio to work. And we just really, really struggled with all these permission schemes and stuff like that. So this looks like a lot of stuff that needs to go into place.
So it's setting up an OpenSearch config. It's setting up the provisioning role, the service role trust policy. This is attaching other policies, the permissions boundary. There's quite a bit here. Encryption policy for OpenSearch, provisioning role. So it's showing you how all this is working. There's quite a bit here. Data zone environment.
My God.
So
how many things? This feels too much and almost too scary.
It's definitely exhaustive.
Studio?
Called via first principal account.
Does it go through an option list to say, would you like this, that? Like, is there a...
Well, so they have a function called how to use. I don't think there's any customization. I think this is a...
Like, there isn't a
this is it. This is what
saying,
you're doing.
What's the run? Okay, so run is create provisioning role, create service role, create permission boundaries.
Well, there's actually one higher. Hold on, I think
is this visible, everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, so right up front, how to use Bootstrap. Okay, default configuration. So there is a default. It does it in US East 1. Then you have custom configurations that it also allows. And then that's where you have the KMS keys and stuff like that. Okay, that makes sense. Let's take a look at the default configuration. So this is the region. Let's take a look at 48. No, okay. I think it will be 69. No. Where's the function? Okay, sorry, that's the Boto. This is weird.
Okay, so the main one is how to use the Bootstrapper on line 27.
Correct. So you come in over there, and it just goes to custom.bootstrapper. This is all comments. So it's supposed to run this, okay? It's supposed to run the Bedrock Bootstrapper with the region name, and then bootstrapper.run. Right?
Yeah. So it creates a new instance of the Bedrock Studio Bootstrapper class. So if we look at the init function,
correct. So I think it then comes into the run over here. So this is the run. So it creates the provisioning role, creates service role, create permission boundaries. Then if this is enabled, which is the custom configurations, then it'll create the KMS keys or an OpenSearch instance. And otherwise, it'll just say all resources have been created. That makes sense. That seems straightforward enough.
So what if you want to use Bedrock Studio with RDS?
So
is there anything about RDS in here? There
is OpenSearch, but no. Let's see.
I don't see anything about RDS in here.
There is no RDS here. There's absolutely none. Yeah.
Well,
but they have data zone and they have all kinds of other stuff in here. Okay, why don't we run it and see what it gets us? Do you have the console up? You can.
Yes, I can do that now.
Great.
I think I kind of like half dismissed some menu and my entire browser froze up for a moment, but I think we're okay now. So let me share a screen here. Okay. So we are doing this live, unrehearsed, going to give this a try. Let's see if we can just download this script.
Is there anything else in this repository? The scenarios? No, it's just one simple Python script.
Yep. Let's see. Okay, so let's put it in its own directory. Now we can run it with default settings.
Yeah, let's
Default
just
settings.
do the default.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. And / bootstrapper, permission denied, chmod plus h. That is what happens when you get permission denied error.
No, I think you need to actually run the. Okay, let's try it.
Well, oh, I see. Yep.
Hello.
Okay, Python 3.
Yeah.
Python 3. So if you put user bin end Python 3 in the beginning,
go ahead and create a virtual environment because I'm pretty sure you'll need Boto for this.
I think I have it. Okay. 3m then there we go. Okay.
Right. Do you want to just do? Yeah. It doesn't have Boto in the header though. Maybe it's further down somewhere.
I thought it did.
Great.
Oh, JSON log.
There.
Oh, it tries.
It's another try. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Great.
So Python 3, Bedrock Studio, Bootstrapper.
All resources have been created. That's smooth. Let's see if we can actually access it.
That almost went too fast for comfort. But yeah, let's
it says it's all done.
Okay, so I'm going to stop this share and share my window, share screen. Let's go here into Bedrock Studio. This is in US East. So now what happens? We click on Bedrock Studio and that's it. It works.
Create a workspace. That is where we struggled last time.
Bedrock Studio after running the new setup.
Okay, now let's take a look at the service roles. Let's see what's there.
Okay.
So search for Bedrock. Is that the Bedrock service?
Data Zone Bedrock service role. So
Data Zone?
Looking at the tab. Okay, let's go back to the other screen for a second because I think we need to show. We just show this. So if we go to the window here, creating role, Data Zone Bedrock provisioning role, and then Data Zone Bedrock service role, and the permission boundary is the Amazon Data Zone Bedrock permissions boundary.
Okay.
So that's what we want to look for.
Great.
Okay, so going back to the other window. We want the Data Zone Bedrock service role, and then we want the Data Zone Bedrock provisioning role. Tags, I'm going to call this project AME Bedrock demo.
Great. I don't think we need KMS for now. Yeah.
The generative model.
Yeah, let's use.
It's real small. Oh.
No, why don't we use the Anthropic.3 haiku?
Okay. And then embedding model is we have our one choice.
Yeah. Okay. No.
Come on.
Come on. One second. It cannot create identity center application instance. IAM identity center is not enabled. Okay.
Okay.
IAM identity center.
IAM identity center. Okay. So I'm going to sign out and sign back in with a more powerful user. I'm going to temporarily stop the screen. So this is good. I have to pull up my MFA here. Okay, we're back in with a more powerful user. Ooh, my AWS bill is lower this month.
Shall we share the screen?
Yeah. So let's go to IAM Identity Center.
You need to
and
enable
we're
that.
still in US East. Well,
Okay,
where?
I think you need to confirm an identity source. So
Confirm. Okay. I feel like Michael Scott. Okay, I confirm it. Set up applications and group assignments.
do you have to do one for Bedrock? I doubt it.
Well, there's nothing to do there. I can enable or disable one that already exists.
Let's take a look at the command line interface and see what it said.
A few moments later.
How do I enable IAM Identity Center for Bedrock Studio?
Sorry, I can't answer.
My mind is going. I can feel it.
AWS, I think still more work needs to be done. There are two pieces of feedback I'll give you. Number one is the fact that you have to go outside the console to then set up something else and then download something from GitHub and then run it is clunky. It doesn't simplify. Just having a button that generates all of this by default in the console, like every other service does it, would be so much simpler. And the second one is there is a lot more to be done with, like, here's my recommendation. Number one, have a set of checklists that say these are the things that need to be set up and in this order. Okay. The default operation, if it's not already set up, have the script. If you're doing a script at all, have a script that asks you questions and you say yes, no to them and go through the entire process. Have a wizard that walks you through it.
Okay, so here we have this link, configure IAM Identity Center. So if we hit this,
okay,
it just takes you to the getting started page. I want to convince myself that I didn't click the wrong link. So I'm going to go back to this tab. Okay, it says configure IAM Identity Center. I'm going to click on that. And it is literally the landing page for IAM Identity Center.
Yeah, not even within the console.
No. So if I click here, maybe I want to get started here. Get started IAM Identity Center.
No,
okay, now it's here. Back to where we were.
Yeah.
Confirm identity source. So that's confirmed. No, but I can't more confirm it than it's already is. Like that looks fine. Set up application, user, and group assignments. So if I go to set up applications.
Try searching for Bedrock. Can you add? No.
No, it's filtering this list. Right? So it's
20 minutes later.
It says configure AWS IAM Identity Center. Before you create a workspace, establish trust. So trust between who and who.
Later.
Before
There.
you create,
There is step
you
one.
must first
Take a look at step one for the down topics. Yeah, let's go to that.
To enable AWS IAM Identity Center, you must sign into the AWS Management Console by using the credentials of your AWS organization's management account.
Okay.
Not from a member account. Well, I'm not an organization. You can skip the procedures in this section if you already have IAM Identity Center enabled and configured in the same AWS region where you want to create your Bedrock Studio workspace.
No, we
You
don't.
must configure Identity Center with an AWS organization level instance. Complete
Okay.
the following.
Just go to AWS organization. You can just set that up in a second. So I guess.
Okay, I just want to read
AWS
this. So IAM Identity Center and use the region selector on the top navigation bar to choose the AWS region. Oh, so this is a long way of saying choose a region.
Yeah.
Choose enable on the enable IAM Identity Center dialog box. Be sure to choose enable with AWS organizations.
Why don't we do this? We're going to take another shot at this on Friday.
Yeah.
We will set up all of our accounts with the organization and stuff like that. We will hold our feedback and our our review on this till we have our stuff set up correctly for experiment.
But I think that's the key insight is that all of this has to happen with an AWS organizations, right?
Yeah.
So if you are a solo developer with just an individual root account that you've set up and some IAM permissions to prevent yourself from making expensive mistakes, that's not going to be enough.
Correct.
And if you set up IAM Identity Center with a personal account, you are going to run in circles and you have no way of knowing that you need to be an organization in order to do this.
Correct.
Unless you had that external bit of knowledge. But if you're a solo developer who's never used an organization before, you wouldn't know that.
Correct.
So I think that's a bit of feedback we can give now is, hey, you need to write this not just towards corporate settings, but towards solo developers too.
Correct. Agreed. Okay.
All right. Well, on the next one.
Yeah, go ahead.
On the next one, we will be using Bedrock Studio. We will have this part figured out, and then we'll use Bedrock Studio to help George Costanza with his second brain.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Till then, please keep your questions coming, your suggestions, your feedbacks. We welcome them all. We hope you enjoyed this show. We will see you on Friday.
Sounds good. Have a good week, everyone. See you on Friday. Bye-bye.
Bye.